Hi everyone! Today I wanted to tell you a story, and I really like this story for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's really funny, but second of all, I think it represents a lot of the common challenges and frustrations that we experience inside of tech and security. Now, this story was actually posted to Russian Hacker magazine back in 2006. So I translated this from Russian to English and added a few different kind of embellishments to the story of my own. So without further ado, I present to you Hacker in the Cafeteria. Day 1. A hacker enters a cafeteria, and he's sitting there eating his lunch, and then he becomes absolutely outraged when he determines that anyone at all can unscrew any of the salt shakers and put anything that they want inside of them. So he decides to write a letter to the director of the cafeteria, and he says, I, Megaduck, that's Megaduck with Leet speak, have discovered a serious vulnerability inside of your salt shakers. Anyone at all can put anything they want inside of these salt shakers. Please fix this immediately. Day 2. So the director is opening up all of his normal mail. He's getting requests for food allergy information, new menu requests, and he gets this letter from Megaduck, and he reads it, and he thinks to himself, who thinks of this stuff? So then he immediately throws the letter inside of the trash. Day 5. So needless to say, Megaduck is really infuriated that his salt shaker vulnerability has just gone completely ignored. So he sneaks back into the cafeteria and replaces all of the salt inside of all of the salt shakers with sugar. 300 people complain that the food at the cafeteria now tastes terrible, and they leave negative reviews on Yelp, plummeting the overall rating of the cafeteria. And then the director spends weeks apologizing for the incident and issuing refunds to all of the customers. And so Megaduck sends another letter to the director and says, see what I mean? Day 96. The director, in order to try to remediate the issue, buys special salt shakers with a combination lock to prevent anybody from unscrewing the salt shaker. People going to the cafeteria start to wonder if maybe the cafeteria is going a little bit too far. Day 97. Now, the hacker is not deterred by these new salt shaker security updates. He knows that if he looks at the salt shakers inside of this cafeteria long enough, he is sure to find some vulnerabilities. So he goes back to the cafeteria and he inspects them further. And he, sure enough, discovers another vulnerability. There are still holes inside of the top of the salt shaker to let salt out. So anyone can put anything they want if it's small enough inside of the top of the salt shakers. So what he does is he creates this disgusting, crazy blend of seasoning, and he sneaks in and he puts this blend inside of all of the salt shakers inside of the top. A ton of people complain that the food in the cafeteria is really going downhill. It's overly spiced and confusing, and they're even getting stomach aches from it. So then he sends another letter to the director and says, better luck next time. The director is facing all of these additional complaints and now starts to face inspections. Day 188. So needless to say, the director's really fed up with all of this situation, and he starts seriously considering giving up cafeteria work altogether and going to live somewhere peaceful, like maybe a farm or something. Meanwhile, engineers are dedicated to trying to create a special one-way valve for the salt shakers to only let salt out and nothing else in. Meanwhile, waitresses also take all of the salt shakers from the table and start passing out salt manually to every single person coming to the cafeteria. Day 190. So Megaduck is not really deterred by this still. He's very determined that he can still find more vulnerabilities inside of these salt shakers. So he sneaks into the cafeteria one more time and he takes a salt shaker from the cafeteria. He's outraged again. He sends another letter to the director and he says, I, Megaduck, successfully took one of your supposedly secure salt shakers from the cafeteria and was able to take it home. This is unacceptable. Fix this immediately. The director really starts considering living on that farm. Day 193. So the hacker returns to the cafeteria to inspect their latest security updates, and he finds that each salt shaker is chained to every single table very securely. So he's pretty satisfied by this. He says, my work here's done for today. So he takes his findings and he decides to present them at a security conference, where he wins a ton of awards and praises for increasing the amount of security for consumers with salt shakers. Now, luckily, the director has no idea that this conference exists, so he remains pretty blissfully unaware. Day 194. In a coordinated operation against the cafeteria, a group of hackers enters, takes all of the salt shakers, empties them into their pockets, and then completely disappears. Megaduck sends one more vital letter to the director and says, clearly management is not taking these concerns seriously. Now customers are left completely without salt. This is unacceptable. So the engineers go back to the drawing board and the waitresses start manually handing out all of the salt again, and the director, he's very frustrated by this whole situation. He finally takes that needed vacation over to a farm to kind of relax after this. Day 200. People entering the diner to eat are now appalled to find that in order to receive salt, they have to show ID to a waitress, where she will then give them a one-time special digital salt passcode. And in order to receive pepper, they have to go through the exact same process. So that was Hacker in the Cafeteria. I really hope you enjoyed this story. I think that personally it demonstrates some of the absurdities that you encounter inside of security, where you're trying to balance between security and usability for customers. It can get pretty over the top sometimes. So if you have a story where you've encountered a similar situation, feel free to leave that as a comment below, whether you're on either side of the scenario. So thank you so much for watching, everyone, and until next time, Lori Wired out.